Meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So President Trump has interceded on behalf of AI development. What's AI, you ask? Well, let me defer to an expert.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But
Yeah, thank you, Kamala. It does mean artificial intelligence, and this week President Trump signed a AIEO. The order directs the Attorney General to establish an AI litigation task force to challenge unconstitutional, preempted, and otherwise unlawful state AI laws that harm innovation. Basically, we can't have a 50-state patchwork of laws governing the development of AI. We need to be unified because China is unified. That was the message. And it was a message well received by tech guys like, the All-In Podcast boys. I'm talking about David Sachs and Chamath Palihapitiya. In fact, Chamath Palihapitiya posted, the reason this EO is important is that the federal government can take the lead on defining the rules of the field. Playing a game with 50 sets of rules isn't viable. Having to do so would slow down investment. But with one federal framework, there's an opportunity to create one set of rules so that AI investments can continue, currently responsible for half of American GDP. Well, yeah, there's that too. For more on the topic, we are pleased to be joined by Jessica Melugin, Director of the Center for Technology and Innovation with the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Jessica, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So Trump's executive order on this front, this a judicious move by the president?
Well, I think the direction is correct. As you explained, this is something we need if we're going to stay competitive with China. And if the world is going to build on an AI model, we certainly want it to be a U.S. model, not a Chinese model. So I agree with the logic behind it, but I do think that in order for it to be really effective, we probably need Congress pass federal preemption. But I think the executive order is directionally correct, and I think it's well thought out. You know, it doesn't say every state law on AI is out. It doesn't say that. It reserves the state powers to what they traditionally are, which is local policing powers, meaning, in this case, consumer protection laws would be fine, fighting fraud that involves AI would be fine, privacy concerns fine, and of course any criminal activity that involves AI is all still left to the states to regulate as they see fit. That's sort of the user side. What this executive order says is, in terms of building foundational models and commerce that inevitably will travel not just across state lines, but globally, we really need one set of rules so that if an entrepreneur in Ohio is building something, he doesn't have to say, well, let me make sure I'm compliant with 50 different regimes. Or, more likely, what's going to happen is that he's going to say, well, why don't I be compliant with the most severe, the most repressive regulatory regime? So the practical implication, if we don't get out in front of this, is that the whole country is going to be governed by California regulations or New York regulations. And that's not much of a pro-growth strategy when you put it against Chinese AI developers that are not facing any of those constraints.
In some of your comments, you said that while preempting the patchwork of AI laws is critical, it should not come at the expense of speech rights and parental prerogatives. What are you concerned about exactly there?
So right now there's a separate, but the timing suggests related group of bills in Congress that's going through hearings. We just had a markup on 18 of them at one time yesterday, and those are about kids' safety protection online. And I just am concerned that we're about to swap out some sort of hasty moves on, good intentions for keeping kids safe online. We all want that. We probably need to have a longer conversation about how that's actually achievable and is in accord with First Amendment protections and a lot of and parental rights. So I just get worried at the end of the year with this must-pass stuff that things get attached to things and deals get made. And unfortunately, that doesn't always make for the best policy for U.S. consumers of this technology.
Well, are you speaking about the Australia and now Denmark following suit, social media bans for kids, Australia under 16? That's in force. Denmark is looking at doing the same for kids under 15. And you've had some people in this country say that's a good idea, including presidential aspirant and former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Is that one of the concerns?
Yeah, I think it's certainly along those lines. That's exactly right. The measures that they're considering are variants of that, more or lesser degrees. But, I've been really surprised by the reaction of a lot of people casually talking about the Australian media ban. And I understand parental fatigue. I have two teens myself, and it is a part of my parenting struggle to make sure they're using that technology responsibly. But, in the U.S., the First Amendment probably would get in the way of an outright ban like that. Kids don't have full First Amendment rights, but they do have some, and I think certainly there would be a legal challenge if we tried to ban wide swaths of little Americans from their Instagram pages. But I think the bigger concern is that I don't really want the government telling me when and if my 16-year-old is ready for a YouTube account. I feel like these are things that should be decided household by household, and certainly we want to support parents with education about this stuff. The tools for parental controls are getting better and easier to use all the time, but we're low on the learning curve. Seems like we've had social media forever. We really hasn't been that long. This might be the first generation where we're parenting with it. So I think we should give that a little more time, and I think that every kid's different, every family's different. If you happen to be lucky enough to have a nerdy kid, they're probably using a lot of their social media really productively to learn about things. If you have a kid who you're a little more concerned about keeping on the rails, then you have more control over that. You already can. I remind parents, and they don't like to hear it. It's not fun to say no, but we can still say no. We can delay when we buy them that phone. We can get them a flip phone first. We can put parental controls on there. There's a lot of options, and I feel like the right answer is usually somewhere in that gray area, not a top-down ban like we've seen in Australia.
So not that this outlet matters much, so its intonations about who is the person or human of the year and who is not don't matter that much. But it is, interesting fodder for discussion. Particularly, I wanted to ask you about Time Magazine naming the architects of AI as the humans of the year, maybe because there will be no humans of the year anymore in short order. It's going to be Optimus will be the robot of the year or something. But, the architects of AI, from Jensen Huang at NVIDIA, of course, to, Sam Altman and Elon Musk and on down the line of the architects. But the architects of AI they're not all created equally. Can you give us sort of a general handle on what you think the state of AI development is and who you think is really providing the best and most balanced vision for it?
Yeah, it is funny that Time Magazine, this sort of antiquated thing, I will give them credit for recognizing a challenger to their business models here. But I guess for me, what's most exciting about AI and what I think will ultimately be the most celebrated is not necessarily the guys developing the models, but all the developers who are building off those models to make tools that are really going to improve the quality of our lives. And I don't just mean, but I do include things that will make more convenient, more efficient. We are already experiencing those things. There will be more of that. but it's not really an overstatement to say that, eventually AI might, cure cancer, might get rid of a lot of big problems we have. So for me, it's the second stage of that, the more targeted tools that are working on big problems. And we could, in the future, we could have so much energy abundance that we don't talk about that as a problem anymore. We could have huge medical advances that literally save people's lives and improve their quality of life in the meantime. So for me, I certainly am grateful for the big names we hear about, and they're out there spending the big R&D, and they're doing the frontline work, and I am grateful for all of that. But of course, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be problems. This is the case with all technology, right? There's pushback. There's push forward. There's challenges that come up. Laws need to be amended. We need to change our behavior. It's all a big learning curve. I don't think AI will be any different. I think there's a lot of pretty responsible innovation going on, but that's not to say there won't be troublesome actors that needs to be addressed. But I think the upside is something we probably can't even really imagine in terms of the big stuff. So I understand people are concerned. New things are scary. That's always been the case with technology. But whatever we develop and grow, no development of technology has put everyone out of work ever in the history of time. So I think there'll be displacement, there'll be those sorts of challenges. But I think on balance, overall, humanity is going to be better off with this new set of tools.
Do you watch and pay closer attention to any of these sort of brand name AI developers, one over the other?
Just very personally, I'm a big, I use Gemini because it's integrated into so many other things, and I think it will be more so that I already use. But I think that part of our learning curve on this is finding what works for you and shopping around a little bit and finding out what benefits you and also the limits of those benefits. I describe my generative AI use as like having a good intern. Like I would still check the work of an intern. I'm still fact checking that, but it does help with a lot of the bulk stuff. And I think everyone will use this stuff differently. And that's why it's so great. We have the open models. I really like that that's part of the ecosystem that anyone can build on. That makes innovation accessible, not to just the big guys that have the big budget, but looks more like we had in the last generation of the internet, which was like guys sitting in their garage figuring out the next big thing. And I think that's where so much of the good stuff comes from. And it's going to be a little bit of trial and error for everyone as an individual, but I think that's really healthy.
Jessica Melugin, Director of the Center for Technology and Innovation with the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Jessica, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks so much. And
Jessica joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is a full-blown 4-alarm holiday emergency here.
On AM 560.
We're going to have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny Kaye.
The Answer.
Dan Proft here to tell you about an opportunity for you to promote your business and to make a difference this Christmas season. I'm talking about our Food for the Poor Business Benefactor Program. We've partnered with Food for the Poor to provide life-saving food and water for thousands of children and their families in Latin America and the Caribbean. Your business can be a part of this effort. Become a Food for the Poor business benefactor by making a $2,500 tax-deductible donation to Food for the Poor. That donation